in the middle of while we were talking about it, I saw the Chris Godwin touchdown. They are getting the brakes beaten off of them.
This is
It's 32-9.
listen, the Cowboys and the Eagles. We got a lot to talk about in that NFC
That
video.
entire NFC East fraudulent. The whole thing.
Yeah.
But I would say Dallas looked worse because I think most people knew that Philly was,
They were
were
trending
off the
downwards.
rails.
Yeah.
Yeah, they started 10-1. They were 1-5, to close out the season. So I think we kind of expected a performance like maybe not this bad, but you expected them to not look good. But Dallas keeps beating their chest, saying, "Look at me, I'm a champion." And
And Philly, so Philly can write this off as, hey man, look, just we kind of fell apart. We lost focus, whatever. It's a what do you call it?
fraud.
No, it's not fraud. Super Bowl hangover, right? Because usually the losing team, they
Hey, usually they don't even make the playoffs. So kudos to Philly.
That's what I'm saying, right? Like you could say, hey, it's just a letdown from last year. We'll bounce back this year. They can say that. They can say that. Dallas. I mean, this was your year, right?
Hangovers ain't supposed to last 30 years.
I mean, think of what has changed over the last few weeks since Cam said, "Hey, man, like Dak is really more of a game manager. Tua, game manager.
Game manager Jared Goff beat game changer Matt Stafford.
Yeah, but he didn't call Stafford a game changer.
I think it was. Well, I won't say it was implied, but he did call Goff a game manager. Though.
Yeah, and that's what he did. He managed the game. He didn't do anything game changing.
He played well though.
Yeah, no, he did. But that's what's so funny. Like all Cam said was, yeah, those are game managers, not game changers. They're playing good football right now. It's not this, and people lost their minds over that. And not only did a lot of them show you that they were game managers, some of them showed you that they can't even manage the game.
Dak, a few weeks ago when that came out, and now he's just like, why am I in it? Why won't y'all just stop talking about me?
Well, yeah, and listen, I'm still a Dak fan, right? And I'm going to bring this up probably in the video or on the show on Wednesday. Matt Stafford had 13 years to win his first playoff game.
Mm-hmm.
I understand. Dak has had more consistent, better teams around him, but Stafford has had some good teams around him. He's had one of the greatest wide receivers of all time to play with, right? Yeah. But there is no expectation for Matt Stafford. There's more pressure on Dak to win. I mean, one, it's the market that you're in. You're playing for the Cowboys. There's going to be more eyes on you. I get it.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, man, when you play like that, man, like he had a bad game. He chokes. Sometimes people choke until they stop choking.
Yeah, and I think that's probably the biggest thing with or the biggest difference with him and Stafford is Stafford didn't really melt down the way that Dak does consistently. Not saying that he was always great, but
he wasn't.
No. I mean specifically in the playoffs. Like, it wasn't like, oh man, this is a team that should go all the way. Matt Stafford ruined it. It's not like that. Like his first playoff game, they went against New Orleans.
Yeah.
With Drew Brees, and they weren't expected to win that game. He didn't have a great game by any stretch of the imagination, but I mean they got crushed because New Orleans was just a better team.
Yes, but there were times where he just didn't make the playoffs, and that's because of him. Like Jim Caldwell had to bench him one year. It was like a game or two.
He didn't have to,
and that wasn't like. No, he had to. Like he sucked. Like he was just bad.
He didn't have to bench him. He could have just.
Well, yeah.
Most teams see their quarterbacks suck and they don't bench them.
Right? Yeah. But he it was warranted. It wasn't one of those oh, he's got some personal beef. Like no, he was not playing well at all. But still, you didn't hear anything about that. But yes, yeah. Usually he's playing against better teams for sure.
I will say the one thing you did hear about that. With the Caldwell and Stafford thing was Matt Stafford saying that Caldwell made him a much better quarterback. And that also did not lead to Jim Caldwell getting a head coaching job, which is a travesty.
I know.
because Stafford said it, Peyton Manning said it, and people are still like Jim Caldwell, ew.
Yeah, yeah, and I want to address this too because D Weezy, brought this up. Says Dak is still looking up at Cam statistically because you had some idiot out there saying that Dak has had
It's
a
on the
better career.
Cowherd show.
Yeah, saying he's had a better career than Cam. No, and
In,
I
in no way.
when his career is done, he's gonna have some more stats than Cam, like more passing yards and touchdowns, right? He ain't gonna have the career that Cam's had.
Well, yeah, and it's just he's never been the player that Cam was,
Never.
and I think it's unlikely that he ever will be.
Right.
Uh, and I think that's part of what led to the backlash to Cam's statements is that Cowboys fans know that,
Right.
just like they knew it with Tony Romo.
Right. I mean, look, Cam didn't have a great day in the Super Bowl. I mean, he's playing a great defense, but he got to the Super Bowl at least.
Yeah.
MVP season, he was unstoppable, and he ran through everybody in the NFC, and he got to the Super Bowl. Right? Anything can happen in the Super Bowl. Ideally, you're playing another excellent team, right? So yeah, it was a letdown there, but he got them there. Dak ain't coming close to that. So yes, he had an excellent year, much better than last year. I'm happy for him, and there was an argument for him to be MVP for a little bit, but the problem is every big game he's had this year, he hasn't played well, or not every game, but a lot of the big games that he's had, he hasn't played well, and then the playoffs, man. I mean, I know the playoffs doesn't really count into the MVP, MVP voting, but as fans, we factor that in because the MVP voting doesn't come out until afterwards. So we're still kind of judging them on the performance. And a game like that against the Packers, that's a team you're supposed to beat.
Yeah, and the reality too is that everybody knows how Dak gets down, and nobody wants to vote for you to be MVP when they know that they don't. That week 18 you're the MVP, and week 1 of the playoffs they don't trust you.
Yeah,
at all.
Yeah,
and that yeah, it's not a postseason award, but that goes into it. That's the rep that he has. That's the feeling that people get from him. And if you have another option, you're not inclined to vote for Dak.
Yeah.
And again, he didn't deserve it anyway. He had a bunch of numbers. Yeah, you played Washington twice. He played the Giants. He played Carolina. He feasted on bad teams. They had a losing record against playoff teams. I think they were 500 against teams who were over 500, and his numbers weren't that great. He was awful against San Francisco. He was awful against the Bills. And when you compare that to Lamar, who is going to win MVP, they were, I think, 6-2 with Lamar against playoff teams this year. Yeah. And his stats are phenomenal. He played his best against his best competition. So Dak didn't really have an argument to win MVP. And even though it's not a postseason award, the way he showed up against Green Bay just validates that. And that's why it's going to be even harder for him to win MVP in the future, even if he is deserving.
Yeah. Yeah. He has to win those big games during the season.
Mm-hmm.
All right. If he had a great performance against San Francisco to beat San Francisco, that'll help. It'll solidify that. Yeah, he has had those big moments, to be considered for it. But if you're just kind of feasting on the NFC East, and then every big game you have, you're not playing that well, or you're not winning, right? Because on those games, I think he played well. He played well against the Lions. They won, but he played well against Miami. They didn't win that game.
Which is hilarious because Miami can't beat any good team.
Yeah. But yeah, okay. This game is over. Tampa destroyed Philly. I think Philly, honestly, their body language just said, "Hey, let's just get to the offseason, man, because we have a lot of changes to make. There's going to be a lot of work on this team in the offseason, right? Things just, the wheels fell off during the season, and they're not getting along with each other. Like, it just, There's going to be a lot of movement, right? I don't think they're done competing at all. They showed you that they didn't get to the playoffs or the Super Bowl. I don't think Hurts is a fraud, right? But there's going to be some retooling there. I think AJ Brown, if those rumors are true, they'll probably look to move him out, right? Because that's what you got to do. Like they have talent, right? And if there's something where there's too much infighting, you got to look at which personalities are you can kind of manage and which ones it's just not going to work out there. Move on from those players, get some picks, other players for them, rebuild, like a kind of a rebuild, but you're still competing type of thing, and go out there. Everybody has to be on the same page, right? Same thing.
Keep AJ Brown than my fraud quarterback.
Whatever.
Ferris said it.
Yeah, man. Ferris is too aggressive with these takes. All right, and then when he ends up being wrong, he has to be like, "I'm sorry." You're too aggressive with these takes, man. He's not a fraud. He's not a fraud.
Baker Mayfield just beat the hell out of him on national TV.
I see, and the truth comes out. This is what it is. Right? Cost him his fancy matchup. That's all it is. Okay, he's not a fraud. But there's a lot to be done there. Same thing with Dallas. Right? You have a lot of talent there, but when you get to the playoffs like this, something's not clicking, and you have to figure out it's more than just Dak, right? When you're letting a guy get so wide open that he's standing there, which seems like forever waiting for the ball, it's like he's getting a fair catch call, right? It wasn't even a good pass. He's just standing there, waiting, catches it, and then run to the end zone. I mean, that's more than lack of focus. You have to have your head completely turned the other way and just like, no, I'm not seeing anything. I'm not going to react to anything.
I mean, I can see why you would say that, but a lack of focus definitely does play into it. And if they had gone to www.magicmind.com/JAN lunch break and got themselves some Magic Mind,
well, hold on,
maybe things would have gone a little bit differently. but honestly, it's more than just Dak in Dallas. It's more than just Hurts in Philadelphia, but they're the biggest problems. And you attack the biggest problem first, right? I don't have a best-selling novel, right? And there's several reasons for that, but the biggest one is I can't sit down and focus long enough. Okay, but with Magic Mind, you take that every day. It kind of builds on itself. You got the matcha in there for the taste. You got the nootropics and the you got ashwagandha. You got there's a lot of great stuff in there for you. But it helps you kind of focus in. It helps you get your tasks done. It helps you kind of block out the noise. Normally when I sit down to do something, my mind is saying I want to do anything else but this. Whether that's work, whether that's setting up these videos, whether it's making the videos for the Black History Fact, whether it's writing, doing anything. When I sit down to do it, my mind says do something else. But when I take Magic Mind, my mind is saying, okay, let's get it done. Let's get through it. Yeah. And so if you go to that link right there, in the month of January, you'll get 1 free month on a 3-month subscription. Going to the link at magicmind.com/JAN lunch break and using the code LBHT20. And you're also going to get an extra 20% off on top of that using our code. So that's going to bring you to a 75% off the total order. You get that free month, and you can just be on your way to having a fantastic 2024. Much better than 2023.
There you go. All right. magicmind.com. Okay. Use that link right there. And it'll also be in the description. But okay. Yeah. So look, if that's what we're doing, man, you got to put the NFC banner up. Okay.
Well, I don't have to put it up now because it hasn't been up the whole time, and it'll look weird if it just pops up now. So I'm just going to leave it out. They know what we're talking about. We're talking about the NFC Super Wild Card weekend. Okay, we're talking about them frauds up in Philly. We're talking about them frauds down in Dallas. We're talking about they're not frauds in LA. They played a tough game, but we're talking about them going home.
Well, so that's the last game to talk about. Okay, and that was actually the most competitive game, probably this weekend, this whole weekend.
Oh, it was.
Yeah. So
24-23.
24-23. Goff gets a little bit of revenge. Okay. I would say I'm happy for him, but I don't really care. I mean, he's been to a Super Bowl already. He's had a pretty solid career.
It's a cool little redemption arc for him, you know. And after Matt Stafford has his taking Goff's job, so it's a nice little get back for him there. It's the first home playoff win for Detroit in 30 years, so that's nice. Whatever. The main thing is they hired a coach. They stuck with the coach and the GM, Brad Holmes. They stuck with them through you know, the early struggles. They built up a team that's very talented, very young, and it looks like you know, they feel kind of like it's their time now. It's not, but you know, they're close to it. So it's fun to watch them. It's not fun because it's been 30 years since they won. They're losers, but it's fun to watch them go from losers to winners.
Yeah. You know, Dan Campbell, you know, hats off to him. We didn't think he was going to be anything, any kind of coach. But he's done a good job changing the culture there, which is very, man, it is so hard to change a losing culture in any sport. When you're used to losing for decades, right? It is very hard to change that mentality, right? Because it's more than just the players, right? It's a structural thing, right? That's front office, that's coaching staff, like that's, you know, all throughout the building. It's hard to get into that mentality, but he did a good job putting together a staff that's just like, no, we're going to fight. And they showed it from last year. Now, me and B don't really subscribe to carrying momentum over from one year to the next, but that's what they did though.
Listen, and apparently it wasn't that hard because they got Matt Stafford out of that building and they cleared the stink right out. Okay? and listen, I'm not taking a shot at Matt Stafford. He got out into that LA air and it cleared that Detroit stink off of him and he won the Super Bowl.
It worked out for both. And I was going to say this because D Weezy says right here, the city of Detroit got revenge on Stafford. I mean, look, Stafford won a Super Bowl. I mean, I can't really say, you know, got revenge. I think they both. I think it doesn't always have to be one side is wrong. Okay. Yeah. It worked out for both, I would say. It worked out for all parties involved. It worked out for Goff, because Goff had to get out of LA.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, yeah. Right.
And he went to a
Coach
team
was basically verbally abusing him.
Right. And he went to a team that believes in him.
They really, really do. And listen, Detroit failed Matt Stafford. You know, not the other way around. Because you can't expect whoever it is. You can't expect one player to come in and change your entire franchise around. Like, you have to have a good GM, you have to have good scouting, you have to have good coaching, all that. Yeah, you said you have to have that good culture, right? Mm-hmm. It's the same thing with Carolina. Like Carolina, they got Cam Newton. Cam Newton is a generational talent, but he can't do it by himself. And the Lions, for the most part, you know, like I said, there were a couple years where the team was pretty good, but for the most part, they kind of expected Matt Stafford to do it himself. So they failed him organizationally, and they got him out of there, and he won. Like you said, you got in Jared Goff. They showed the trust in Jared Goff. They built around Jared Goff. They've drafted extremely well over the last few years, and they're on their road. And I'm certain they're going to get a Super Bowl in the near future. Maybe not with Jared Goff quarterback, but they're going to get one in the near future. Okay, because they're very well run. They're very well coached. And they've got it going for them now.
Yeah,
but we'll see. And the Rams are still competitive. You know, they still got Sean McVay. The question is going to be, how much longer does Matt Stafford want to do it? Because every time you see Matt Stafford play, he gets hurt. Every single time.
Yeah. And people are showing a video of him getting knocked down, and it looked like maybe he wasn't all there, and they're like, how did he pass protocol? Yeah, but if you look at Matt Stafford on a sideline, he always has that spaced out look, though.
Yeah.
You know, so when I first saw it, I was like, oh, that doesn't look good. But then he kind of just blinked and just, you know, got up. I was like, Well, he does look like that.
He's probably all right.
Yeah.
He looks like Luke to me.
Like,
But they're another one. They've done a good job drafting, even though they haven't had any first round picks. I mean, you got
boy,
Puka
did they.
Nacua, you got Byron Young. You know, they've had some other good
Kyron
picks
Williams.
recently. Yeah, so you know, basically what we're boiling this down to is get a GM, Carolina, please, please.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So next week for the NFC side, you have San Francisco playing Green Bay. I'm intrigued by this. Okay.
Yes,
I'm intrigued by this. And then you have
because it looks like Green Bay might have themselves a game changer too, because he's got a phenomenal arm. He can make throws that no other guys can make. And listen, I don't know. You know, they say it's a copycat league. I don't know how long it's going to take other teams to catch on to this, but draft your quarterbacks and sit them. And you know, there are some guys who can come in immediately and play.
Yeah.
Absolutely. You know, I think Pat Mahomes would have been fine starting year one, right? But you know, obviously C.J. Stroud is tearing up the league year one.
Yeah.
But you know, we've talked about this before. I think there are more people out there who can play quarterback in the NFL than ever before, but there's less patience than ever before, and there's worse coaching than a lot of times. I think that's starting to change now as they kind of cycle out the older coaches and everything. But you know, most teams are not willing to draft a guy and let him sit. Jordan Love sat for 3 years. You know, Aaron Rodgers sat for 3 years. That's why they're going from Hall of Famer to Hall of Famer to a guy who looks really good now. That and the fact that, I mean, you want to talk about drafting well. They've got like 5 good receivers who are in their second year or younger.
Yeah.
Over there.
Which is why I thought San Francisco made a mistake letting Trey Lance go. But we'll talk about that another time.
Their mistake is about to be, you know, their trash is about to be Dallas's treasure once they get Dak up out of there.
Wow. Oh man. Okay.
I'm sorry. Yeah, you know what? No. Yeah, I'm wrong. Let's just keep getting embarrassed in the first round for another 8 years.
Look, we're gonna unpack that in another video, or maybe we'll do that on the LBHT show, which you can find on Wednesday night, 7:15 p.m. Eastern time. You can follow that up with the overtime show, which is on our Patreon at patreon.com/LBHTshow. All right. So we're gonna wrap this up. All right. Lions play the Bucks next week. And you got the Packers taking on the 49ers. Some very intriguing matchups. Very interested to see how this turns out. But some good football is coming up on both sides. All right. But that is it for this video.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Wednesday, the 17th for our picks for this weekend's games.
Yes. All right. There you go. There you have it. All right. And if you're new here, hit that subscribe button. And don't forget to like and share on your way out. And that is it. We will see you guys on Wednesday. Peace.